Everybody loves Cacio Pepe. There's only two things that are really important when you make it. Number one, very, very little water in your pot. And number two is you use very fine Pecorino Romano, mix your pasta water into it, and you make a paste. It's really that simple. You're gonna put it back on the pasta, you're gonna toss it, you add any pasta water you need to loosen it up. Do that, then you could do a little twirl like you see all the pictures now. When you're making the Roman dishes, like carbonara and amatriciana, this is the only cheese you need. But you could do what you like. You could actually try this dish, make this dish completely with Pecorino, do it with Parmesan Reggiano, see the difference between the two, maybe mix them. Sometimes you'll see recipes that way, but for now, let's make the regular version of Cacio Pepe. So here we have the Locatelli Pecorino Romano. This is a really good Pecorino Romano that is not Locatelli brand. It's from Italy, imported, way cheaper. This is the bag that's now sold in Costco, BJ's, Sam's Club, pretty much all across America. This comes from an Italian specialty store, which is the Locatelli brand. The Checo pasta, love it. I think it's the best value for the money. It's about $1.50 to $1.99 a box for 1 pound. These are whole peppercorns. They work really well for this. I'm going to take a cup, probably more than I need right now, and I'm going to really smash it with a meat mallet. This is the mallet we use for braciole, for chicken cutlets, but it works well to break up these peppercorns. You could also throw these peppercorns in a coffee grinder. I'm just going to hit it pretty good, and when I'm satisfied with the coarseness of it, I don't want it ultra coarse, but I want it coarser than I probably can get in a pepper mill, right about there. And this is what we'll use. So I have, just pointing out, the finest, grater part of your grater you should use. Don't use this really. This is not that fine. The one that is right there on the cutting board now, and I'm showing with the fork. Keep your cheese out for a while too. It'll loosen up more and won't be cold. Keep your heat very low here. Not very low, very high. You're boiling pasta water. I'm sorry, but don't put as much salt as you normally do, and keep your water really, really low in the pot. I'm gonna do a half pound of pasta. Half pound of pasta, 4 ounces of cheese you need, roughly. Maybe a little bit less. About a cup of grated. Mix the pasta around really well because we don't want it to stick, and will have a tendency to stick more because you don't have a lot of water. So low heat here, and I'm going to take those peppercorns and we're going to lightly toast them. We're going to bring out a ton of flavor from the pepper. You don't have to go through this step. It's a nice improvement, I think, on Cacio Pepe. So I have my cheese in one bowl. I have a bigger bowl. The reason I have a bigger bowl is I'm going to mix some of the cheese with the pasta water. Olive oil, I'm showing you. You don't need it. You don't need butter. You don't need any of that. Some recipes will have it. You really don't need it. I'm going to add about half of that cheese. So that's about a cup grated. I'm going to add about a half of it to a bowl. Meanwhile, I'll take about a couple ounces of pasta water and put it in there with the pepper. I'm just going to turn it low for now while I tend to my cheese. I'm going to take a little bit of pasta water, half a ladle maybe, start mixing this up. I want to form a fairly decent paste of the Pecorino Romano and the pasta water. Then I'm going to add more of the cheese. I just don't like to add it all at once. Sometimes it has a tendency to clump more that way. So I add a little bit more cheese, a little bit more pasta water. I'm cooking my pasta to very al dente, meaning less than firm. So I'm going to cook it a little bit more in the water and the pepper right now to give it more flavor. Pan got a little dry, so I'm adding a little bit more pasta water. And with those tongs, I'll just mix it around. Here's my cheese. A little bit more pasta water. I'm trying to loosen it up. You can loosen it up, maybe even a little bit more than you need. It's okay. You can always add more cheese back in at the end. You just don't want it to clump right now. So it's better to be on the loose side and not be clumping. So I'm going to pour it in here. Get it all in, and then I'm going to kind of shake my pan around and use my wooden spoon and mix it. Then I'm going to toss it to try to increase the emulsification. You don't have to do this. You can actually do this in the glass bowl, which is kind of like I guess an easier way to do it. Some people will do it that way. And I was a little wet, so I added a little bit more of the Pecorino Romano cheese to thicken it. This is just like carbonara, where you add more cheese if you need to. And just mix it. And that's just looking absolutely perfect. And it's perfect consistency because it's the consistency that's going to take your family members a few minutes to get downstairs, and it's going to stiffen up dramatically. So you can use your long fork, make a nice nest, and a little pepper. Now I used about 5 ounces of cheese here. You could use even more if you want. There's a half pound of pasta. You got to use a lot of cheese. You'll see it starts to get a little dried out. So you really want people to be able to eat this like right away when you make it. And you can see how thick it's gotten. It's only been like a minute and a half. It's crazy, right? And that's what will happen. So that's why I said calm down quick. But you still have your pasta water. Just take a bit. Start with an ounce or two. You don't need a lot. Put it right back in the pan, and you can loosen this up. This thing, Cacio Pepe is great just eating right from the pan. Guys, if you like this, make sure you check out my other Roman dishes. I'll put up alla gricia in the future. Right now I have carbonara and amatriciana. They're both coming up next, and I'll see you next time.